I think it has been quite illuminating. I would start my conclusions by saying that in this case we should use the precautionary principle, which is something that we are using in many other public policy areas, specifically climate change. And the precautionary principle is when you have great unknowns, and I think that from what we have talked, we have great unknowns at this moment. My second conclusion is that we are not on track. I think that is quite obvious on handling this problem in terms of public policy and in terms of the ability of the private sector within the current incentive structure. We are not on track on solving it. The third is that this is not a European issue. This is much bigger than Europe itself, but it is an issue. Its solution can and must start within Europe, because here we have the most sensitive public opinion to this kind of issue. It's close to climate change from that perspective. You cannot expect people in India to start making public policies and giving huge amounts of public money to solve this problem, because this is not going to happen. Then, what's stopping things from moving faster? I believe inertia is the biggest problem. I would answer Christopher's question by saying that people mostly agree when you make the argument. And that's a very dangerous thing, because if they don't agree, you know you have to convince them. If they agree and do nothing, then you have a problem. And I think this is where we stand in this case. People agree that there is a problem, agree that it can be extremely serious, but actually don't react. My final point before concluding is that we haven't looked at the money issue close enough. We've been looking on possible incentives, and work has to be done there, but we haven't seen what we are losing. And essentially what we are losing is not only the money that the patients cost when they have multiple infections in terms of productivity and days at the hospital and drugs, etc. The really big part of the money that we are losing is all those antibiotics that are used without no societal benefit, in fact with societal loss. And that is where we must start to make a proper calculation for the ministers of finance. Because one has to move the argument to the ministers of finance as well. If we look at all the money that is spent in antibiotics that shouldn't have been bought at all and shouldn't have been used at all, then you are not talking about 1 billion a year. I can tell you, in my own country, we can claim 1 billion a year only from that source. And it's 5% of the European market. So the money calculation is not yet being done properly. And to finish, I think the problem is political. If this is not a major political issue, this is not going to be resolved. I hope that it does not turn a major political issue within the circumstances that we've seen in Japan a few days ago, and we keep seeing it. Because these kinds of events, outliers, is something that societies generally, and especially our societies that have a false feeling of security, are not well are not used to cope. We are a society that hasn't seen essentially war. That's a big success. We haven't seen big calamities that really shake people's lives. And we think that we're immune. We are not. Thank you.